Hey everybody, Julie Drake with Shine with Julie. I am so excited to be with you today. And I have a special guest who has been a longtime network partner of mine, Kim Martin. And Kim is an entrepreneur. She is just a go out there and get it done girl. She started with Curves franchise in 1999. And now she has over 20 years of experience and she just truly does motivate people. So I love your Kim Martin Motivates is her website, and we'll show that a little bit later. But she just really loves to teach and motivate and pull the best out of anybody who's reaching for a goal and a dream. And how long has it been? I've decided is a personal development company that you started. How many years ago now?
August 14th. So we just had our 7-year anniversary. So
my gosh.
Yeah, we incorporated as a business on August 14th of 2014.
Oh, cool. You'll always remember that.
Yeah, August 14th, 2014. And
Very
so
cool.
we are in our 7th year.
Mm-hmm. And I am part of that organization, have been almost since the beginning. And
Probably.
It is now, yeah, it really, it's taken a new spin, a good spin because of what happened with COVID. But now people from all different states are coming. So you have an in-person presence and an online presence, which I think you guys do super well. Some organizations struggle with that, but you've really managed to keep the community together. And I commend you for that. So
thank you. Yes. So we have members
about, yeah. Did you always want to be an entrepreneur?
No, I didn't have a clue what an entrepreneur. So that's
what is that big word?
That question, no, that's not even possible for me to say yes to because I had no idea what the word entrepreneur even meant. Probably prior to my early 20s. You know, my dad has always been self-employed. I would not say he's an entrepreneur, but he's always been a self-employed person. He's a lumberjack. He cuts trees, so he has some big trucks and stuff like that. So he's, because an entrepreneur is a visionary, right? Someone who has ideas and explores those ideas in business. That's what I would say an entrepreneur is. And an entrepreneur could have several businesses, really. And probably most likely has several failed businesses and some successful ones along the way and some in the works. And so, so no, I have not always wanted to be an entrepreneur because I didn't know what that was. I kind of just landed in that just as a natural personality, but I've always had big dreams. How about that?
Yeah.
I've always had big dreams. Even as a little girl from Alabama, there was just something in my spirit that was like, I'm going to be something different than this when I grow up, whatever that was.
Yeah. And if you guys know Kim, and she doesn't do anything small, which I love about you. So talk me through that. What brought you to Curves in 1999?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So I opened my first franchise in 1999, January of 1999, but I actually started working for Curves in 1998. And I just applied for a job, Julie. I was looking, we had moved to Georgia and I was managing a Gap. That was my career at the time. I worked in retail and I became a manager at the Gap. Mm-hmm. And when we transferred to Georgia, the closest Gap was like an hour away. And I went from being a store manager to being an assistant manager because they already had a store manager. Okay. So they just gave me an assistant manager role, which was fine, except for, it's hard, two store managers under one roof in your early 20s, you kind of got this, right. Two girls that think they're in charge. So that wasn't fun. And plus I was driving an hour one way. So I essentially just applied for a job at a local, it said local brand new women only fitness facility looking for a manager. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm a manager.
Right.
But I was an overweight manager at the time. So, so I just applied for a job and they hired me. And I fell into Curves, literally fell into Curves by divine appointment. I feel.
So, what took you to that employee mentality to taking the risk of starting with a franchise? And, I don't even know, there's so many different ranges and investments in franchise, but it was an upfront risk investment, right?
Which, yeah, it was. And so I can only tell you this. As the manager of a successful Curves in Georgia, I decided that if I could run their club successfully, I could do it for myself. Yeah. And one other quick thing to add, I became a what they call a mentor at Curves back in the day. They don't even have mentors anymore, but back in the day, they had mentors. And before I even opened a Curves, they hired me with Curves International as a mentor. So I would go out and help other Curves owners open their Curves. And so I just started seeing, I'm like, they can do this. I know how to do it. I'm teaching them.
Right.
And so I just decided to do it. And I tell you, there wasn't anything going to stop me because I knew, I just was like, I can do this for myself. I'm not going to work for someone. I can do it for myself.
Yeah. And that's what I think a lot of people who come into entrepreneurship finally get that light bulb moment. It's like, wait a minute, I'm doing so much for my company or whatever. I have this skill set and somebody's taking most of my income because I'm only getting a small portion of what I could be getting.
That's right.
So I love that you said that because I think that so many people sit back and they feel undervalued in their job, but they don't understand that, especially now. I think, unlike in 1999, it was much harder. I mean, we're coming from the time of faxes, no email, no internet, we both started.
I didn't even have a computer. We had little attendance cards, that lady signed off on. It was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So now even more so, I think that there are so many other opportunities for people who feel exactly like you did. Like, wait a minute. If they can do it, I could do something for me.
That's right.
Make a bigger impact potentially and then earn more. And like you said, I loved that you said this early on. Most entrepreneurs don't have just one business. They have multiple businesses and a lot of ideas floating around up here. And that's great.
I do. I think there's a difference between being self-employed and being an entrepreneur. There's
exactly a difference. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. I love how you clarified that. I was going to ask you what your concepts were on that, but that was so clear to me and it makes total sense. It really does. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure coming from 1999 to 2021, there's been some challenges along the way. What are a couple of those challenges and how have you overcome them?
Oh, geez. Well, it's funny because I literally was just at a Curves conference this week for 2 days. And I actually said this out loud to other Curves owners in the group. I'm like Curves bipolar. Like one day I love it and one day I hate it. One day I love it and one day I hate it. And one day we're going to have every woman in our community. And then the next day I'm like, I don't want to have this anymore. So it's those moments, it's like there's just been so many with Curves. I started in what we would call the heyday, right? And so I had such success initially with Curves. I had such success from the beginning with Curves that I no matter what would happen today, it was a good investment. Right. There was a time I had 1,500 members. So I made a good investment. And regardless of what would happen today, my investment, I got a return on it big time. Okay. Yeah. I've made a lot more money than I've lost. But along the way, the business, you go through that heyday and then just like in any business, right? Sure. Then you get catch a wave and then you catch a wave and you catch a wave. And so the strong will survive. It has been tough. I would say the toughest from 2008, 9, 10, when we had the huge downturn in our economy until now has been the longest, I would say, lull I've experienced. And I tell you, I've wanted to give up a lot. And it's probably one of the things that inspired me to start. I've decided those 7 years ago, because I'm like, well, if I don't have Curves, what am I going to do? Like, what else would I do? I mean, this is my life. This is where I motivate. I mean, that's what I am. I'm a motivator. I'm an encourager. Curves
Sure.
has been my platform to do that. And so if I don't have curves, then where am I going to do that at?
Yeah.
And that was truly my mindset. And God just said, you can take this, you can take what you know outside and start teaching people how to achieve their goals and dreams, because it's all the same methodology. It's all the same mindset, whether it's losing weight or finishing school or opening your own business or what, it's all the same mindset. And so that's kind of where I've decided formed from was, oh no, what if Curves completely goes belly up? And what am I going to do? Well, this is what I love to do. So I'm going to teach people that if this girl from Alabama can be successful, then so can you. And here's how you do it. And that's where I've decided to kind of evolve from.
I think it's interesting that you shared that it happened in a valley, because I think so many great things come out of a valley.
Yes.
And if you were still riding high with those 1,500 members all that time,
no, I would have never evolved. It's funny. You just said something that really struck a chord with me, because I always say I will not buy a lottery ticket because I would probably win. For real. I'm not kidding, because I'm lucky that way. Like I win a lot. But I don't want to win, because if I did, I'd probably just go by my house in Florida on the beach, and then that's where you'd find me, behind a gated lock and hidden from the world. And I wouldn't fulfill my purpose, Right. So it's like, it is so true. If I still had those 1,500 members, I'd probably have my beach house on Florida behind a gated community, nowhere to be found. And
you might do that for a couple of weeks, Kim, but you'd get bored. You'd get bored just sitting behind.
I don't know. I don't know. But no, and I have this conversation with God all the time. It's like, I know why you keep me right where you want me. You keep me hungry, just hungry enough, right, to keep going, because I would, I would not have the motivation. I mean, it is my drive for success. I mean, obviously, I'm using my gifts and talents. I love people.
Yes.
I love to help people. I love to encourage and motivate. But it is that drive for success that keeps me motivated and keeps me going. I think your original question was, how do you get through that? It's coming back to, I am leaving it all on the table. Our theme for 2022 for I've Decided is one life. And it is so true. We got one go at it. We got one life. Now I'm a Christian, and so I know that my life continues. I'm not fearful of death, because I know that my journey just continues on once I take my last breath here. And I'm thankful for that. And I'm so grateful for that faith. But on this side of heaven, we got one go at it. And I'm leaving it all on the line. I'm putting it all on the table. I'm going for it. Every idea, whatever God tells me to do, I'm going for it.
And you can see that in everything that you do. You really, really do. Now you have daughters, so you've been in business a long time. Your girls are now older.
Yes.
But how did you build all this with young kids?
Oh my gosh. Well, I was pregnant with Kinsley and Katie at Curves. My first daughter, Kinsley, who's 19, she's a freshman at WVU. She was it was the funniest thing. I took her to Curves in a little cart, what do you call this?
I don't know, bouncy seat.
What are they? We haven't had babies in a long time. This car seat, but you could use it as a little handle thingy.
Yes.
The car seat became a little cradle. Anyway, she loved Curves. I could sit her over in the corner with that loud music. She slept the whole time. Okay, so I would take them. I would take them, bring them to Curves until they couldn't come to Curves anymore, because they were out of their little carry on. And good support. I mean, good family, good. They have great dad and great grandparents, and they're so just good support. Yeah, and daycare.
Yes.
And lots of awesome babysitters.
Don't be afraid to use childcare to build your business.
I'm all about the daycare. So that's I'm good with that. Hey, if you work from home full time, that is the hardest full-time job in the planet. That's like 3 jobs in one. But for me, I like daycare. Daycare rocks. I don't have to worry about that.
I'm sure now, you've had a chance, your girls have come full circle and they've watched you along this journey. And have they given you any feedback at this point? Or
yeah, don't get their famous line. Don't go all Kim Martin motivates on me, Mom.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, it is so funny. I have actually, especially my oldest one, my youngest one she kind of gets into it a little bit secretly. She'll hear me doing a coaching session with someone and she'll be like, Mom, that motivated me. So she's real sweet like that. But my oldest one, who's very much like me, we're a lot alike. She just, doesn't want to have anything to do with it. And honest to goodness, she's like, she will avoid the conversation. Like, let's say she wants to go somewhere. If she thinks she's going to have to hear a 15-minute Kim Martin motivate speech before she goes, she would just assume sit in her room. She's like, and I'll say, where's all your friends? And she's like, oh, they're at a party. And I'm like, well, why didn't you go? And she's like, I didn't think you would let me, or either I was going to have to hear a Kim Martin motivate speech and I wasn't worth it. I'm like, oh my God, isn't that bad?
So funny. I love that.
So obviously, I'm like, well, people pay me for this. But obviously she's like, well, that's good for them.
I'll be interested in a couple more years, because at 19, you're still, you're in that mom stupid stage, mom doesn't know. But a couple more years from now, it'll be interesting what her feedback is for you. Mom.
But they are big motivation.
Yeah.
They are big motivation because they have seen this, and especially with I've decided it, that's mine, right? I've decided is what I've created. And they've heard the struggle, seen the struggle, see the work behind the scenes, and they hear me talk about the purple jet and the beach house in Florida and the things that we're going to have. And they're just like, oh, Mom. And I'm like, mommy, when you're coming to visit me at my beach house in Florida, and it's like, that's my motive. It's like, I have to be, I don't want them to say, she did. I want them to say she did it. At the end of my life, that's my vision. That my daughter's saying, she said she was, and she did it. She did it.
Exactly. I love it. My daughter, not that I'm going to get her everything she's claiming, but it's so hysterical because for years she's had her eye on blue Jeeps, 4-door, hardtop, Jeep Wrangler in royal blue. It has to be blue.
Right.
So, it's hysterical because she'll say things like, oh, there's my Jeep that I'm going to have someday. I'm like, you go, girl. Yep. Uh-huh. And so the other day she wanted to do this trip that initially I said, no, just not going to work. So she's getting out of the car the other day and she's like, when I go on that trip, I'm like, I'm never going to discourage it. I'm never going to discourage it.
I just say you can get anything you want. Just keep in mind, because my youngest daughter, her goal is to be an orthodontist. Mm-hmm. And so she's like, she'll say, oh, I'm going to get an Audi. That's her dream car. And I'm like, girlfriend, you become an orthodontist, you'll be able to buy yourself whatever kind of car you want.
Exactly. You got it.
Reminding them, right?
So we've been together at times where life has thrown you some curveballs, and, we're not going to pretend here that life is always easy and we don't get down or upset. But give us one tip of how Kim Martin stays positive among a negative world sometimes.
So I don't want to give the wrong impression that I don't ever get, blue or like exhausted from everything that we're all having to deal with, or like I'm just always so bubbly and perky, because that's just, it's not true. And so I don't want to ever give off that impression. I am pretty extraordinarily energetic and positive. But I feel that it's a learned behavior. I do, I have a natural tendency to look on the bright side. That, what do they say? Half of us are more optimistic than some are. And maybe that's a natural gift from God, or maybe it was taught to me by parents or siblings or whatever. But I tend to be way more optimistic anyway. But I am very, and this is, and my family, my kids will attest to it. I am a pretty disciplined person. I wake up about the same time every day. I go to bed about the same time every day. I read my Bible. I pray. I run. I work out at Curves. I stay hydrated. I take supplements. I don't watch anything bad. I don't listen to anything bad. I won't watch a movie that has cursing in it. I won't listen to music. I only listen to Christian music. I usually just mostly watch Christian movies. Although I love movies, it's just so hard to find one that's good.
Yeah.
That doesn't have the bad language. And, I have some of my best friends cuss like sailors. So no judgment. I'm just saying that I choose. I make a decision, and, and my faith, I don't live in fear because I know God's on his throne. I know who I serve. I know who I am. And I know what he has planned for me is good. And some of that I'm going to experience here on earth, but most of it is to come. The best is yet to come. The best is always yet to come. And so I live in that mentality. Tomorrow is going to be better than today. And so I feel that, I believe that. And I have practices. So when I will say this, my kids they've got this my kids hold me accountable. They hold me accountable to the things they hear me say. The other day, I got worried about something and I kept going on and on about it. And my daughter goes, "Mom, you're ruminating."
Oh, nice.
And I was like, "You're right. I am."
Yeah.
And so I brought my brain out of that, and I was like, no, I can't. I got to stop ruminating on that. So isn't that funny? So
I love it.
yeah. So I was like, and so I owned it. I didn't deny it or try to argue with her or tell her I'm the mom, she's the dog. I'm like,
do as I say, not as I do.
I'm like, oh my gosh, you are 100% right. I am totally ruminating, and I teach people not to ruminate, and I'm totally doing it big time. So
thank goodness that you have showed them that and taught them that over the years, because then they can help you. I love those moments. It's like, right. Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out in me. Because sometimes it's super easy to see things in others, but it's so much harder to see it in ourselves when we're in that moment.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I love what you shared about, you choose your disciplines, you choose the things that, it took me till I was in my 40s to realize that I didn't have to believe every stupid thought that came into my head.
Right.
Like, wait a minute, I can get rid of that. Holy cow, light bulb moment. It just, I don't know why it took me so long, but some people learn things sooner than others.
And everybody has the ability to learn how to live with discipline. It is a practiced behavior. So if somebody's watching this and they're like, oh my God, who can go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time and blah, blah, blah. Trust me, if I can do it, anybody can do it, because I used to be overweight. I used to cuss like a sailor. I used to, not run. I used to be did I say overweight already?
Yeah.
All of those things. I drank Mountain Dew, not water. I went to bed at all hours of the night. I even disciplined my sleep. So it's really interesting. Once you learn the process of success, you can start applying it to all kinds of things. I used to get road rage, terrible road rage. And then I just decided one day, I'm like, you know what? This is terrible. This is ridiculous. Yeah. I'm not going to do this anymore. And that was a hard let me tell you, that one took a lot of work.
Yeah.
That was a hard practice thing to do. But the processes to success are the same no matter how small or large the goal. and success begets success. So you just keep practicing.
Well, I'm sure God gave you a lot of road rage practice once you set your mind to that, didn't he?
Yeah. One time I actually sat through this. Well, I'll spare the story. I could talk to you all day. But let's just say one time I sat through an entire red light that was green, that turned red. And it was hilarious because the person in front of me, I never honked. I just sat there. The light turned. And then when they were on their phone, and then when the light turned green, they took off like a bat out of you know what, like they were all frustrated. Right. I laughed so hard. I'm like, dude, you just sat through the green light. Like,
right.
You did that.
Why is this light taking so long? Well, that happens when you sit through the first one.
Exactly. Nice. I laughed. It was like, and that's what that would be me,
yes.
And that's who I do not want to be. So we're going to keep practicing.
Yep. So now I want to put a website here because I want people to know how to find you. And I also want you to tell us about an upcoming event that is going on for I've Decided, because you know what, guys, Kim has just brought a little bit of herself with you today, and there's a whole lot more. And every time I hear you speak or you encourage people at just a bi-weekly event at I've Decided, there's always something that I take away into my day. So tell us about your conference coming up.
Thank you. Yeah. So our conferences are open to the public. As a member, they're included in the memberships, but people that are not members of I've Decided can certainly register for the conference. We've actually had a few people register today even that weren't members. I was like, yay, look at that. I was so excited. And so it's on September 11th. So we have 3 conferences a year, and we call them Motivational Leadership Conference, and there's a series. So every year we have a theme. The theme for 2021 is The Time Is Now. And so we had a kickoff conference in January. We had one in the spring, and we have one in the early fall, September. And so this is our last conference of the year, and it is a great way to come and be motivated and get inspired and hear from some awesome speakers. We have Yolanda Tyler, one of our members, and she's got an amazing inspirational story. And then it is September the 11th, and it is the 20-year anniversary of September the 11th. And so strategically, we have Sheriff Brian Asbell is going to be our speaker. And a lot of you may know or may not know, if you live in Peoria, Illinois, you may be listening to this from somewhere else. But in Peoria, Illinois, he's our sheriff, and he was in the military, and he's retired from the military, and he was deployed right after September the 11th. He went to Afghanistan or Iran or Iraq, wherever they all went. Right after September the 11th, he was deployed at that time. So it's gonna, it's just gonna be a great message, a great morning. It's a power-packed few hours. We start at 8:30 and we go till noon, and it's a Saturday morning. And the best, just go to our website, ivedecided.org, and you can sign up and register. And I'd love to see you. It's going to be an awesome morning.
Fantastic. Well, Kim, I've really enjoyed. We could sit here for hours, but we are going to close this broadcast, and thank you so much. And for all of you listeners out there, I'm going to say this because I know Kim shares this with me. If there is something in your heart that you think you're supposed to be doing and you don't believe you have what it takes, borrow our belief, because we absolutely believe in you. And if you need help, connect with me, connect with I've Decided, and just become surrounded by people that will encourage you and lift you up, because you've got this. Go shine. Bye.
Thank you, Julie.